Hey, I'm Ryan Reynolds.
Recently, I asked Mint Mobile's legal team if big wireless companies are allowed to raise prices due to inflation. They said yes. And then when I asked if raising prices technically violates those onerous 2-year contracts, they said, "What the f*** are you talking about, you insane Hollywood ass?" So to recap, we're cutting the price of Mint Unlimited from $30 a month to just $15 a month.
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
Getting engaged can be stressful. Getting the right ring won't be at BlueNile.com. The jewelers at BlueNile.com have sparkle down to a science with beautiful lab-grown diamonds worthy of your most brilliant moments. Their lab-grown diamonds are independently graded and guaranteed identical to natural diamonds and ready to ship to your door. Get $50 off your purchase of $500 or more with code LISTEN at BlueNile.com. That's BlueNile.com, code LISTEN for $50 off.
Welcome, guys, to this week's episode of Heavy Metal Tones. With me, your podcast host, Tony Evans. This one's one of a few interviews I've done recently, which with JDK from Project Ultimate Satan. We had a good old natter before and after the show, and it goes all over the place, as we would expect from one of my interviews. But I had to have him on the show after listening to the album at back end of 2024 and chatting to him for Metal Ruse. I was absolutely blown away by the album. As you will find out, I do wax lyrical about this particular album. And the band, fantastic, they're a local Canberra band, and I would highly recommend, as you could probably hear from the interview, listening to this album. So I hope you enjoy this. I really loved it. I learned some stuff. I had a good laugh. We had a good chat, as always. So take it away, Tony, and I hope you enjoy listening to me and JDK from Project Ultimate Satan. So I just want to button here. I completely forgot to put this in after I recorded it. If you want to watch the video of me chatting to JDK, please go to Patreon, heavymetaltones.com, Patreon.com/heavymetaltones.com, and that you could, for $2 a month, you can get ads free and you can watch all the videos of my interviews raw. I don't edit them. So please do, if you want to watch the video, pop over there. Otherwise, enjoy it here. Bye for now. Thank you for coming on the show, Jay. It's good to talk to you again. I obviously talked to you a few weeks ago, maybe before Christmas now, wasn't it?
Yeah, just before Christmas.
Yeah, for about the new album, okay, which is obviously we all know what we're here for, which is Project Ultimate Satan. And I would love to know, because when we were talking before, it was only just recently sort of out in the world. What kind of feedback are you getting at the moment for it?
Mate, everything's been amazing. We're getting heaps of positive feedback, a lot of interviews, and a bunch of people putting us on. Thanks again for all your promo, mate. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I just got back from tour a week ago, so that was a little one, but still good. Got down to Melbourne and Adelaide, and both those shows went really well. Yeah, it's been a crazy time.
Because those that don't know you are not sure, you're a local Canberra. I would like to say extreme metal band, but symphonic. It's very difficult to pin you down into one particular genre, which I love dearly. But a local band here from Canberra, the capital of Australia, which used to be the metal capital of Australia at one point. I remember for years, Canberra. I don't know if it still is or not, but I consider it so.
Yeah, well, I think that most people that are doing opposing giant shows have still got 7 years to go.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go.
Those boys did it for like 14, 15 years, right?
They did indeed.
Yeah, it's a pretty big legacy. I know we talked about it last time.
Yeah.
Because they won that award from APRA AMCOS for went in there. It's like 13 years or something they did it for.
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
Yeah.
And I just, as I said, I just think that I said to you before on the last time we talked, and I'll put a link into the show notes so people can see that video as well. But I just feel that you've created such an amazing album. It has grown on me in such a way. Like when I first talked to you, I'd listened to it maybe a handful of times, got used to the movement of it. And then since then, it hasn't come out of my rotation.
Thanks, man.
No. And every time I listen to it, there's something different. Something different. Like I literally listened to it 10 minutes ago, finished listening to it 10 minutes ago. And I made a note about how in this Is This How Freedom Dies, which is actually one of my favourite tracks on the album.
Yes.
Reminds me of the Crass track. It reminds sound like Crass. I'm listening going, what's that reminding me of? And it's what makes this kind of music really special. So the album itself, you can get now everywhere, I believe. It's
available. Yeah, it's available everywhere.
Available everywhere. And remind people the name of the album?
The Opus Satanis.
That's it.
And if you want the physical copy, it's only available on Bandcamp.
Brilliant. Fantastic. And people will want the physical copy because when you see the artwork, which I absolutely love, as a big fan of your previous stuff, as I talked before.
Thanks, man.
The artwork stands, because the whole album itself, and we'll go through the tracks, but the whole album itself for me is sumptuous. It's velvety, it's thick and rich, right? And not one point do you think you know what you're listening to. And suddenly, like I said, back in the, like with the footprints in the sand of time and Is This How Freedom Dies, it's not what you expect. You open up with a classic, with a symphony S Infinitus, and you go, oh yeah, I know where I am with this album.
Yeah.
And then, no, it's something completely different.
Yeah. I tried to make it like that when we were composing. You know what I mean? Like, I know we did a bit of a deep dive into each of the song meanings and that kind of thing, but like each song is supposed to be a different figure. The two bigger movements with 3 songs apiece is kind of like night and day. You know what I mean? Like I tried to do that. I tried to make each song stand out, be different, kind of and explore. You know what I mean? Like
yeah. I think
first time I'd worked with like a classical pianist, Daryl, and we were trying to figure out our style. So being able to bounce off each other and try and meld that more percussive piano style, which is different than most symphonic stuff. So most symphonic stuff, they compose around what would be classical symphonies, whereas I've tried to compose the symphonies around death metal, if that makes sense.
It does indeed. It's the other way around. You're wrapping it instead. Yeah. And I think that's what makes it different. I think that's probably why, Jay, that it's standing out to me because, we all listen to a lot of music in our lives. It's constantly flowing through our cranium. And there's a point where you're desperately looking for that spicy meal that gives you the afterburn or that, that buzz. Yeah. That's something different. And this is what I love about extreme metal particularly is that no one sits around and just goes, oh, okay, just 12 songs and here we go. There's always experimentation. There's always somewhere new to listen. Like the spoken word parts on this album stand out. I would have those just on a CD. Like I go, I'll go listen back to that because I'm sure there's something that I've missed. Or what does that tell me about the song coming up?
That's purposeful. That definitely tried to add different parts and make sure that the story is still separate from some of the sample, but it still tells more to it and adds to it. It depends. So like the choirs, the male choirs always in tune, and there's heaps of different, even though we don't do quotes, we still like take quotes from things. So you'll see throughout there's like famous quotes from different art media, pop media, I
thought so because at one point I was thought, is that is that Edgar Allan Poe? It was that kind of gothicness.
Yeah,
That,
yeah.
that
I think I stole a bunch from like Skeletor from the
yeah,
Masters of the Universe
brilliant,
movie, and
brilliant. I saw that
but you know,
when they came out. That's a shock.
yeah, me too. It was
Oh
amazing.
Lord, Dolph
I
Lundgren's
loved it.
worst.
What's his name who played Skeletor? Like he made it though.
It was the
So
only thing
good.
in the movie that's I just couldn't wait for Skeletor to turn up. That was
Yeah.
all I wanted to see, or Man at Arms, or whoever, Oh,
Yeah, but
brilliant,
that classical prose of what does he say? Can you tell me about the loneliness of good He-Man?
yeah, that's it.
And, and I just took out He-Man, and but
I thought I'd heard it
what I
somewhere.
did was I also flipped it, and like if you have a look at how the lyrics play, that there's a bunch of different like questioning things, like is it learning to be good? It's kind of like that, trying not to do the duality thing, trying to do like yin yang, kind of explain the gray area, that kind of philosophy. There's a whole bunch of Stoic quotes in there, because I get right into Stoicism as well.
Yeah, I've done a bit of that myself.
Yeah. There's a lot of like Five Rings of Musashi, and The Art of War, a few of those ones in there as well. Just anything that I consume, I try to include stuff that I think that makes me feel happy and builds myself up, because the whole album is supposed to be like it's a little self-indulgent. The Opus Satanis is the opus for me. So
yeah. But why not? Why not, man? I don't think there's anything wrong with that. If you have that much talent and can put it to that album, and create that kind of work, why not? I mean,
it's also for you, the opus for you.
Yeah,
that's how that kind of anti-theistic Satanism stuff goes. It's
exactly. That's LaVey, and the Church of LaVey that's what he's like, right? And I really dig the intelligence in this album. There's time for brutality and banging your head against the wall and just being a teenage nut, right? There is time for that. We've all got that in us. We all love that rampage.
That's the easiest emotion to evoke, right?
Easiest emotion to evoke. But when you're like, literally, the vocal by Jem I keep going back to this track, back to in this Is How Freedom Dies. It's so sorrowful. It's so beautiful in a brutal way. It's such a yin, like you said, yang to the dark and the light. Yeah. And I can't keep going back to that song. I bloody love that song.
Yeah, awesome. I'm glad you do.
Yeah.
We nearly did a video clip for it. I think I talked about it last time, but like I just didn't want it to be touched to something.
No.
I didn't want it to be attached. I wanted it to be like for anyone. Anyone can have this and have it be there. I'm stuck. I want to be free kind of song. You know what I mean?
Do you know what? And I feel that's how I feel about it. And what I love about this album as well is that, and this is to listeners who haven't listened to this album yet. Some people come to me and they talk, I can't listen to extreme metal. I can't do the growly vocals, but I like the music. And I always say to them that there are paths of which way to understand what they're doing and how to listen to it. But what is good about this album is it gives you everything. So you've got the extremity, you've got the growling and that difficult vocal, but you've also got the clean. You've also got you can hear the lyric. There's great lyrics on this album, so you want to hear it.
Yeah,
it's no good butchering it, writing a beautiful song and then not being able to tell a word that's what you're saying. And this is a great level in to people. I think I've told that to people. If you're looking for a way into extreme or death, black metal, whatever you're looking for, this is a good way because it gives you a bit of everything.
I did try to make sure when I was producing Scotty vocally, to ensure that his pronunciation and enunciation was hearable. Like you can understand what he's saying. A lot of people when they do death metal vocals, you can't. Some people completely incoherent, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And then when you do the really low gutturals, a lot of people find that hard because the amount of understandability is gone.
Yeah.
But we also, anytime that's happening, you've got Gemma straight over the top with the same thing. You know what I mean?
Oh.
And I actually did try to make sure that all the lyrics were audible at all times. There's a couple of hidden ones, but
Yeah.
that's also purposeful. You know what I mean?
Of course, it's for you, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's a really very salient point. Gemma's vocals. It's very. You don't get a lot of well recorded female death metal. You don't. I mean, there are a few brilliant ones out there we can name, but there's a lot of really badly produced. And she's got a beautiful voice.
Yeah, she's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
I've been pretty lucky to work with like Gemma on the album, and before that, Zoe or Tetra Nova is who I started originally working with, and has now recently rejoined the band.
Oh, brilliant!
And we took playing with such amazingly talented ladies, and that being my first intro to working with ladies in music, it's I'm pretty lucky. And the professionalism behind both of those ladies is amazing, and talent. Yeah, it's crazy, man.
I know. Do you know what I love it? And the fact that it's our town, like it just makes me smile, right? Because this. I mean, you can't pick this album up and go, "Oh, I'm made in Sydney or Melbourne, or it's a Melbourne band or whatever." You go, "This is local. How good is this? Local music can be this good, right?" And it's not just. It's how well it's made. I know we talked about it before about the production values of the album, and how I think the studio is the other member of the band, and I think your work in the studio on this is exemplary. Like,
thank you, man.
It really is. And for a first out, I know that you've done a lot of work elsewhere. It's not your first rodeo, but for this first project of this particular band, wow.
Yeah. Well, when I was working with Gib to make this happen, we'd worked on 3 albums previously together for other bands with the label, and I was kind of like, I had ideas for those going in, being like, I want this to sound like Immortal, I want this to sound like AC/DC, TNT, that like these are comparable levels, comparable mastering techniques, just modernize it a little bit, and let's kind of play with it. With Past, I went in and I was kind of like, this one's going to be a hard one, bro. I don't really have anything that I can kind of tell you what it is. So I had to show him like a bunch of different things that like each of the different little influences, and then try and get it from there, and see how we could mold that together. Because the layer cake is thick, and
oh yes, and it's deliciously thick.
Yeah, you know what I mean. And it took us nearly 3 months to get that right before we started moving forward with the mixing, just to get that kind of those levels right and how we were putting that together. So. Testament to Gibbs ears, mate. Like,
it's brilliant. Yeah. And I genuinely, honestly, and it comes across that way, because I don't know how I would do it. I mean, this is such a complex piece of a suite of music that just to sit down with a producer and go, hey, I want it to be I wouldn't even know where to begin. So like, you obviously have this vision, which comes across brilliantly.
Thanks, man. And I definitely tried to steal a lot from like Black Tongue's not the last not look, I forget what it's called. Anyway, the second last Black Tongue album at this point in time, for like production style, like picking different guitar tones and then auditioning them as well. Because if you're doing studio stuff, different amps in a different context sound completely
Absolutely.
differently. And
Yes.
and I was like, oh, I want that guitar tone. And he's like, you're not getting that guitar tone, mate. And so we had to then strip back and figure out, oh, okay, so can't be Dimmu, can't be Immortal, can't be Behemoth.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
What do I do? Yeah. Wow.
We ended up settling for like a in between Nile and Behemoth. There's kind of like a sweet spot in that drop A, even though we're in double drop D.
Yeah.
In that Nile-esque A kind of key, like that PV 5150 mixed with that Marshall-esque sound, kind of gives that sweet spot. Still gives you the chunkiness, still gives you the brightness and the deep kind of push. It's nuts.
Do you know, I could listen to people talk about amps all day. You could talk like that. If you put it on a CD, I'd listen to it all day. I'd love the technicality of recording.
Yeah, I'm weird, man. I don't listen to CDs much like normal people. Like I've got I'm undiagnosed autistic ADHD, right?
Yeah.
It's the new thing to do now, diagnose yourself, right? But I don't listen to music the same as other people, man. A lot of people, like I listen to, I can pick an amp, I can pick a pedal, I can,
I love it. You're talented.
You know what I mean? Like I find it a bit of a curse. You can't really, instead of being able to listen to it and just enjoy the piece, I'm like, oh man, that guitar's out of tune. Or
yes, I worked with a guy who was perfect pitch, and he would always have a go at me, and my guitar was out of tune.
Yeah, man, like a compressor's popping in the background, and you know it's hitting the wall. Like sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, and you got to educate yourself. And oh man, anyway, that's kind of part of my, I don't know, not secret power, but like that's.
I think that's but that's what comes into this. Yeah. Don't you think? Like that's why it's not just a simple. No, music is simple. Everyone makes music are talented, and I love everyone that does it. But there can be simplicity in extremity, and there can be complexity, and it can be middle of the road. But this one is just a different level, and I think it's because that your ADHD brain is going, oh, hang on, that little tone there is not right, but you pick it and it changes everything. Yeah. You know, it changes the landscape of the music.
And when you're thinking about stuff like that, like a lot of the riffs, what I've done is, even though they're complicated and they're hard to play, I've tried to make them sound simpler, even though it's some of the hardest stuff I've ever played. But the way it's recorded and the way that it sounds makes it sound simpler than what it is, which is trying to keep that catchiness and keep that melody, but still have, you know, riffs. Like I like bangers. I like you know what I mean, hooks, melody. Like I tried to incorporate all that, you know, and not throw out traditional structures either. A lot of like tech, like I get right into tech death, and a lot of the more proggy stuff, let's throw the textbook out with like song structure, you know what I mean? And I love song structure and playing with it, but you can't tell me what's a verse and what's not a verse in some of the songs. What's a chorus? There are anthemic parts.
Yes,
but they aren't specifically a chorus. They aren't a pre-chorus. I don't let any of that kind of dictate. It's fun. I just, as long as it sounds great and I piece it together and the dynamics move, because for me, I get bored really quickly with music. And if you're doing the same thing and there's no payoff, I want payoff every 15 seconds, mate. Like bang, bang. You know what I mean? And still tell the story, but have a consistent trail. You know what I mean? Like and weave that stuff. And
that's what about prog. It does that for me, man. It does not. We all love a bit of Chuck Berry. Nothing wrong with a bit of Chuck Berry. You know, like that traditional rock and roll. AC/DC, as we spoke before, but there is something delicious about like the stuff that just weaves its story around your consciousness. You know, I find what sounds, I've told you before, but listen to this music in complete pitch black. Because I like you with you hearing music, I can't concentrate if there's something going on in front of me.
Yep.
I need complete to get into the album. I can't. I'll even put like
blinders
on because I need only that and nothing that. I remember when the last time
I do that when I'm mixing.
Yeah, and what a way, see, because then nothing, all your sensory areas are gone, which is, let's be honest, we get, oh, that's nice, and you don't hear it. Your thought goes somewhere else because you're looking at a tree over there.
Yep.
But when you're not doing it and you're in the darkness, you get that real vision. You see the images that the music brings.
Yep.
And like I said, like, you know, I've got here, I did, you know, a couple of albums that I really love, but songs we love, but the lists on here are just brilliant. Like the last track, Nocturne Immortalis. Like, whoa, right? I mean, there's not, you know, it's not an album that's gonna sit with you for hours and hours. You don't have to give it all day, but when you do give it the time, you know,
that 7-8 minutes goes past like that, right?
Like that. Humanity's Last Breath, man. The opening to that, chef's kiss, right?
Thanks, man.
I generally, because I have listened to this music my whole adult life, like yourself. And there's points where we're not jaded, but we sort of go, oh, okay, yeah, I've heard that drum beat before. I've heard that blast beat before. That's that, yeah, the tritone, okay, gotcha. And it sort of flies past you, and God love them, they're trying. But then things like this arrive, and you go, hang on, no, I missed that. What's going on there? It's so layered that I have to re-listen and like the drumming. It took me about 4 listens to really listen to the drumming in it, because it's just so intense with the mix of the album that I had to go back and go, no, just this time I'm only listening to the drums. You know, I just want to give myself to the drums.
I love those syncopated, the blasts, because trying to like not just be like a standard blast and trying to get like
yes,
like it's so good. And then to bring back all that time signature stuff, like if you notice it's like 5/4/7/4 5/4/7/4
yes.
5/4/7/4, and then you've still got all the big timpani hits,
yes,
that are orchestrated. They're all in key, because if you don't do it in key, it sounds off, right?
Yes.
And as you're doing the things, it's actually in tone with the guitar as it goes down.
Oh, mate, I'd hate to be the bass player with that.
Yeah, with the bass on that's like what is it? 2-fingered taps, so it's like a good like I don't know.
I played bass my whole life. I couldn't do that.
Yeah, so I originally played bass for about 15 years. I can do like four on both on each hand. But I got mauled by a dog, and I can't feel these 2 fingers anymore. So I kind of like I got full movement, but I can't tell how hard I'm pressing.
Oh, yes.
Right. So I've switched from bass guitar, because the strings are so thick and you got to push so much pressure down to like complete a fretting, that on a distorted 8-string guitar, it's just like whatever, don't have to worry about it, doesn't hurt anymore, doesn't jack my whole arm up. But that's probably why my guitaring is a little different than most people's, because I come as a traditional bass player. I was pretty good at bass. I don't like to give myself a big head or anything, but
mediocre myself.
But I like. Did you ever see my band Punishment?
Yes. A long time ago though.
Yeah.
That would have been.
That would have been like Foggs's. What was his festival called in Woden?
Oh my God.
Yeah. Anyway,
my brain. I do remember it.
not at the green room, but the Canberra Chaos Act, and it
Yes.
was that whatever the RSL or whatever.
Yes.
Anyway, so
What time ago now?
so we did heaps of other shows with Punishment, but Punishment was me. That was my last show as a bass player. Before I got mauled by the dog. So that album that we wrote for Punishment was insane. That's some of the hardest stuff I've ever played ever, and is like that was mint, like brutal tech def quad kicks, because Adrian's got the quad kicks.
Yes.
And that show was amazing, but I could probably do it if I went lighter scale strings, but I don't know.
No, mate. I think I mean, you've evolutioned into there for a reason. You know what I mean? And I think that's the, like, I broke this finger when I was 6, this middle finger, the root finger. So I can't hold certain chords. It just won't go there. So I had to completely change the way I play certain chords.
Yeah.
And so that's why I thought I'll play bass, because I couldn't do the final.
I had the massive stretch from playing for so many years. I got like so like I do a lot of, because I'm in double drop D, I'm doing like gigantic chords.
Yeah.
Like there's like 4 or 5 frets between each finger, and trying to get like big ones, and doubles, the kind of Megadeth style stuff, but doing diminished at the same time. So they're fun ones with the double drop D. It's pretty fun, man. I just like to play around.
I love the world of alternative tunings. All right, everything down in different places and playing different wonderful wacky things. And God bless me, I tried, but I just made it sound like mud. So
I'm sure you didn't, mate. But all of it's like just doing fifths.
Yeah.
And trying to be within your range. Next, I'll catch up with you one time, and we'll have a bit of a jam.
Yeah, it'd be lovely. Now, live, I'll come to that because I sort of skirted around this last time. Obviously, you've had a bit of a tour. You've just got back from Melbourne and Adelaide. This is complex music, okay? This is, I mean, I know you've got a large band. There's a lot of people in the band. It's a big lineup.
But we don't tour with everyone.
No, you don't tour with everyone. That's what I was going to say. How then do you have to pare down the sound and change it slightly for live, or is it exactly?
No, it's exactly the same. It's just we have pre-recorded versions of each person, and if they're not available for that show, they then become live.
Right.
Sorry, the playback. So, we would love to tour with a full orchestra, but we're not Dimmu, right?
You're not Metallica.
I'm JDK from Canberra. I can hardly afford to fill my car up. You know what I mean? Like,
we should change that, Jay. That has to change. I mean, I'm being that sincerely. You can't make this kind of art and not be.
We did 5 people in a Land Cruiser and a trailer, and being able to pare down everything, it was pretty good, pretty breezy. I did 3 days of driving. It was fun.
Yeah.
I'm sure everyone else didn't have such a good time, but
I'm sure they did. I'm sure they had a great time. It was rock and roll, man. I was talking to Jeff Martin from Racer X this morning. And he was telling me some very interesting stories about his bus trips with people like Michael Schenker and all that. So I'm sure yours was equally as much fun. Yeah. But so the live thing, right? The fact that you can reproduce that live, I know you have to use tricks of the trade to get the sound to be live. I really appreciate that, because if I come to your show and I've listened to this album ad nauseum and I don't get that when you play it live, I understand the limitations because we are limited to what we can do. But I'd be a little bit like, hang on, what? I'm missing that
Yeah.
little bit that I wanted to hear come in here. you know?
Yeah. So that it's hard, man. And
Yeah.
it depends on the room.
Yeah.
So like we've taken on Gareth as our live sound guy, and he does his best to make it sound the same in every room. We spent a lot of time building up the tech behind it because I think I told you, like, there's no one in Canberra doing this scale.
No.
And like the recording, like we call it the AIO, so the all-in-one rack, right? And so the AIO rack, it's crazy. It's giant and it's heavy, and trying to break down. I think there's like 140 something lines of tracks, right? Now, not in the live setting because you got our mixer, and that mixer is only 32 channels. So you've got to group them down and do the best that you can to try and emulate it. But a lot of people complain about the drum tone and triggers and things like that. I just kind of ignore it because whatever. So there's
live,
a big.
they complain about live, the drum tones, they're saying.
So we use the same exact drum kit as what was used on the album.
There you go.
As the drum module. So the same drum module sounds that we used are being played. But that means that we trigger the drum kit. And people are like, oh, you can't trigger the drum kit. Why are you using triggers? You're faking it. And you're like, I could put stupid kick drums under a thing, play it back to you. But what would be the point of that? That would embarrass my drummer, embarrass you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like my Luke Amosash is an amazing
Phenomenal.
drummer.
He's phenomenal. Yeah. Like
you know what I mean? And
they're
people are like, oh, that's impossible. I'm like, it's not impossible. I can do it. Like, and I'm a second-rate drummer. Like maybe you guys should practice a little. And then like, but they're like, oh, but you're triggered. And I'm like, yeah, everyone's triggered.
Yeah, of course they are. I mean, that's the thing is, like, I go to a gig, so I come to see Project Ultimate, say, and I'm listening to your gig. It's an in the moment thing. We're human beings, right? It's a artistic moment. It's a moment of creation, a reproduction of creation, but still creation, right? There are things that you will do differently, slightly on the night that you may not have done on the album, right? If you want it replicated, buy the CD, go home, listen to it. What do they think?
Also,
drives me mad.
Depending on where you stand in the room,
of course,
is how it's going to sound to you and what you're going to miss. Like, I think Adelaide recorded the whole show.
Brilliant.
It's not.
Oh, isn't it? Oh, damn.
Because they stand in between. So the difference between front of house, and then because there was no barrier, they were like in front of the foldback. Yeah. And like the foldback is all I want to hear, not what people out the front hear. That's my cues, man. So all you can hear is my cues and me. Or then out the front, you hear the whole thing. You go close to the drummer, and all you can hear is his cues because he's got his own cues.
Oh my god!
And anyway, the Adelaide show was amazing. Amazing other bands. That first band that played blew me away in Adelaide. I feel so bad for not remembering their name. It's not that I don't remember your name; it's that I'm ADHD as shit. Yeah. And when I try to think of your name, it goes, can't do it.
It's white noise.
Right. So they were amazing. And like the venue was really nice. It was great. And the people there, everyone that organized it was awesome. But yeah, when you're doing video stuff and you're walking in between the foldback and the front of house, it like goes like I'm like, oh, that sounds so bad. But at the same time, I'm having trouble that night because the Indian kept popping out.
Oh no, that's horrible. Yeah.
Right. And Gareth, the sound guy, runs up and slaps me in the head with my own earplug and gaffer tapes me. So I've got my ears gaff taped on this, but he pushed the mask off kilt,
Oh,
so I
no.
couldn't. And it's made out of leather and it's stiffened, right? So it's
Yeah.
like glued, and I'm like, oh god, I'm drowning. The thing's drowning. Anyway, pulled it, but like it was fun. And shitty at the same time, just because the ear thing. I don't
Oh.
know. It must have been like 10 degrees warmer there or something.
It probably Adelaide probably was. I mean, it's like when I go to the basement. All right, there's a left of the stage near the stack. That's my position, right at the front. And many times I've been there and I've not heard the perfect sound, right? But I don't care. This is my spot,
Yeah,
right?
that's
Usually in
what I
front of the
see.
bass player. It's where I want to be. If I
Yep.
wanted, to hear it pitch perfect, I'd go and stand in the middle and get
Yep.
that. But I'm not that person. I want to be at the front.
Yep.
And I want to be on the left.
Yep.
And I take the lack of that I can't hear what's going over on the right hand side. I don't care because I'm hearing it anyway. It's just not in perfect.
Yep.
And that's
Yep.
it's my spot, like my sticky pot on the floor. I want to be there.
Yeah. But this trigger thing does my head, man. Like
Yeah.
the
Snobs,
us
mate. They're just snobs.
us getting it. Ah, man. Yeah. Like I reckon it's laziness. You know what I mean? Like, well, people making a big thing about it on the internet, and then them being like, I understand what he just said, and then doing the thing, and then trying to like, not me too, like, catch people out or whatever. Just I don't know.
The internet is full of people who think they know lots of things. Like I've had some stuff thrown at me. I do a small podcast in Canberra, right?
Yeah.
I do my little bit around the world. I've got a good audience. But there's some people say things to you and you go, hey, are you doing this yourself? Like, do you sit down with a mic and bare your soul to everyone? No, you don't. But you're happy to go, oh, but you didn't do this and you didn't say that, right? Same with the people with the triggers. They don't have a clue, mate. They've read some magazine somewhere. They've watched a video and they think they know everything. What they should be doing is going, fuck, this album's 5 out of 5 and just enjoy it. I'd love to see it live. I'm fascinated.
25th this month. We're playing with Dreadnought and the Eternal at the basement.
I will be there. Shit, I didn't know.
I'll bring your shirt.
Yeah, thanks, mate. I did not know. Oh, crap. That's completely missed. I completely missed that. Well, it's Christmas, man.
It only got announced just after we had the interview with you.
That's probably why I missed it.
Otherwise, I would have mentioned it on the show.
Shit, yeah. Well, I'll definitely be there, man, because I am very curious to see how this thing is going to pan live. Because if it's as good as it is, then wonderful.
Have a look at the YouTube video. You'll see. It'll give you a pretty close indication.
Fantastic.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But at the basement though, you won't have the crossover.
No.
And we've done 3 shows now with the hybrid kit, so we should be more used to the gear and more used to there's different things with our rig. So if we don't get a sound check before we play, like so before the show, and can't kind of leave my gear up there, there can be problems with the tech.
Oh, of course. I can imagine.
So you've got to, like the boot sequence.
Yeah.
If I get the boot sequence wrong, you're getting click out front. You know what I'm saying? And like that happened at the bookstore in the city one night when we were playing there. Basically we had to jump on stage, put the thing on, and go in 5 minutes. That's the entire boot time of my computer. Like, so I'm scrambling to try and get this is when I was doing the sound myself. I didn't have Gareth on board, and trying to get those problems sorted for other band members as well, while I'm trying to set myself up and be queued to play. It was very disheartening. Anyway, then like besides that, trying to find a person at a venue. Some sound guys are just real pricks. Some sound guys are amazing. Some sound guys are like, "What you want to do? What?"
Yeah, it's 'cause they
Like,
don't know how to do it. They don't know how to do it. That's the point.
right? And I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, well, I'll take all your ability to fuck my shit up, and I'm just giving you a stereo feed, and all you're doing is turning the volume up, mate. And they're like, what? I'm like, yeah, I'll do a sub mix. And so we're running our own sub mix under the PA, right?
Wow.
So that's kind of how that works for now. I can't afford to buy the split. So like we're not booking shows where we're playing with a $2 million PA,
No,
and because
should
they just
be.
won't
Yeah.
they won't let you have your own sound guy. Their sound guy is certified for that thing.
Well, that
So
makes sense. Yeah.
you have to give them all of your channels and they do whatever they do with it, right?
Right.
Whereas my thing, I'm taking over your PA and I'm just plugging my stereo send in and we're going. Yeah, so that's fun. Trying to explain that. And then they're like, don't you want stuff on stage? And so I'm like, yeah, so we plug in the other four, which is the fallback,
Yeah.
and we just dial that in and then it's all preset. It's ready to go.
Wow. I, because
Because you don't have to tune the room. The PA's already been tuned.
of course you've done it. Yeah.
And I'm CD perfect off all the stuff. The live instruments, you just tweak those to taste for the room and you're good to go.
Brilliant. I mean, with the album and the live performance, there's a lot of drama in this album. It's a lot of drama, a lot of operatic imagery that comes with the music. Do you, in your live performance, which I'm looking forward to seeing on the 25th, by the way, but in your live
Yep.
performance, do you find that you have time to add that in because it's so technical in the music?
So there's different members in the band that are more active on stage than others. We don't really have like a planned out, say, have you heard the band Marithian?
Yes.
So they kind of have like a planned stage show, and they have all their cult members, and they all come out, and they
Yeah.
Portal, for example, they come out with the big costumes and do all that
Yep.
stuff.
Yep.
Right? We're trying to
do
get
it. Yeah.
trying to get more into that, but trying to find someone in Canberra that can do custom costumes.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so we have masks. Some guys wear corpse paint, some guys wear masks. We're trying to do that. I can't wear corpse paint. I got real bad eczema.
Mm.
So I wear the
I
leather
poor
mask,
bugger.
right?
Yeah.
Right. And basically, that works. It seems to be fun. We're not as theatrical as some, but the music itself, like, if I bounce around too much, the ears are just going to pop out.
Yeah. Oh, of course. I was
You
going to
know
say,
what I
'cause
mean?
yeah.
Like,
And it's so intricate music. The music's so intricate.
I'm a old banger. Like, I like to bang out, and I miss my hair. But
yeah, some of
you
mine.
know, oh, mate, I wish. I tell you, but trying to keep that energy and that presence. Scotty does an amazing job. He's in your face. He's everywhere. And the same the recent shows were with Zoe, and seeing Zoe come. She hadn't played in a live band instance before, and
Wow.
seeing her come alive with that stuff as well. She broke dislocated her shoulder skateboarding just before the trip.
I saw
Right?
the photograph. She's in the sling. Yeah, I saw
dude,
that.
what a trooper! 3 days, 3 days after dislocating her shoulder,
Yeah.
going on tour with 5 stinky dudes in a van,
Oh,
in a thing, and then everyone drunk bumping into her at shows. Yeah, skateboarding. It's like, oof.
That's why I was never allowed on one, to be honest with you, as a kid, and I think that saved me.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
wasn't a big thing in the UK, skateboarding, not as much as it was here in America,
yeah.
but yeah, no, honestly, fantastic for her to do that, because that's rock and roll, man.
That's
she
the
is a
true.
trooper, man.
Yeah, yeah.
Didn't hear a complaint from her while we were in the bus, in the Land Cruiser.
Yeah.
Like no complaints. Just fucking, let's get to this show. Let's
Oh,
get this
mate.
done.
Man, you get
Yeah,
full of adrenaline. I mean, that's the point,
yeah,
isn't it? I mean, I keep going on about it because I genuinely mean it, but you've got this behind you. It's not like you're going on tour with some dross that you're not sure about, like some studio's gone, we need you to put out. You've gone with a labor of love, something that's really taken every ounce of you spiritually and emotionally and physically. You're going to go and you go break your arm. Who cares? I'm going to go and do it. Like, that's it.
yep,
I will be
yeah.
there.
That was her attitude. I just joined the band. I just got back. We're going on tour. I don't care. And I thought that was some pretty cool attitude. You know what I mean?
I think it's a fantastic attitude. I will tell her that when I see her. That's an amazing thing. Oh, dear. So obviously you've just, it's a bit too early to say new projects, but I'm sure you're always working on something new. But I don't know how you're going to follow it.
Mate, then the new album's going to be big.
Oh, really?
We've been recording it for 2 years. It's better, bigger in every way. The songs are a little shorter, but they're banging. It's more tech, crazier stuff, more melodic, more brutal, more symphony. We've worked out how to make the symphony big and sit and compose well for us to make it be a whole cohesive thing.
Wow.
Like some of the shortcomings, I don't like to call them shortcomings because I was completely happy with the mix on the first album, but the new album for me, it's just everything sitting so well.
Oh, and that's the thing. I mean, very rarely do people who love their first albums. I mean, you name as many bands you could name on your many hands, and they would go, "Oh, I didn't like the way we mixed our first album.
Yeah,
I didn't like the way that sound."
I wouldn't have stopped until I'd got it to where I wanted it to be. I'm that type of guy. I'll throw it in the bin and start again.
Oh, I love it. But Jay, that's what makes this so good, Jay. That's what I love about you and this music, is that you're not giving the world second-rate stuff that you could just, oh, look, I can pop this out now. I've had enough of it. You're giving something that's fully rounded and what you want to give. And that's special, because a lot of people do just put stuff out, man, because they can, or they just, there's a hole they need to fill, or they just need, and it flies past you. And then in 5 years' time, you've completely forgotten it. Whereas this is going to live, this one. This is a Canberra classic, mate.
I truly hope so. I've been around a bunch of the Canberra classics, and been, with the boys and helped people out throughout time, and I hope that this one does sit well in people's, Canberra list. I like to
think it should,
that,
mate. I think it does. I think it sits way up. It was my album of the year last year.
Yeah, I that's massive. I hope that it gets enough out so that we can make it bigger and put more Canberrans in focus and that kind of thing, like Australia wide. Like,
yes,
the extreme scene's pretty small, but it's amazing. I'm a massive scene supporter. Like, man, have you? I was also really proud. Like, did you hear Reign of Terrors?
Yes.
Beer Metal EP.
Yes. Got a Reign of Terror. They've been around forever and ever and ever. Oh man, never know.
I took that on as a, like, I really wanted to make like a Reign of Terror album that I could, I'm probably one of the only musos that hasn't played in Reign of Terror.
Yeah, I mean he's been around forever and a day. Isn't he such a?
But the album that I was able to produce with them, like tonal wise, it's completely different than everything else they've done.
Oh no, it's actually the best thing they've done, and I mean that when I listen to it, because they do have hit and miss. They are hit and miss.
Yeah,
Reign of
but
Terror.
I really wanted to like make sure that thing was like I did a service to the oldest band in the oldest last standing kind of
Yes.
traditional death metal band from Canberra. I wanted to put my name on that and be like, man,
Yeah.
I did my favorite EP of theirs. You know what I mean? I as soon as I get chances like that to do things like that, I jump all in on that kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like when I was told that I could do Black Mountain's
Oh,
album,
yeah.
right? So I was like, oh, I want to get that. They gave me a chance to do like some vocal stuff on their first demo.
Yeah.
So I recorded the vocals and did like a quick mix for it because they wanted it out to be able to showcase and get shows and stuff,
Mm.
right? But they ended up selling it, and we were recording the album at the same time. I'm like, man, this is like 6 out of your 8 songs, bros. Like, are you sure you want to just have a reprint of that? And they're like, yeah, man, this isn't a for sale. This is just for now. The new album's the for things. So I was like, I'm down with that. I'll support that, and managed to like make that one sound rad too. Like,
Yeah. You've got a
I
talent,
was
man.
super stoked with that when it came through. Like,
Yeah.
that was not my first go at producing, but like doing it from the start to the end. So record, produce, and then like go through the mix and master stage. It was with Gib, but like being able to produce in the mix master studio at the same time and kind of like help shape that end product as well. So
Yeah.
That became the blueprint for the Terror, and then the Terror became the blueprint for the Pus. Like,
Yeah. Brilliant.
it worked. But yeah, look forward to the new album, man. If we ever hang out, I'll bring you some demos.
Yeah, I'm too. I am. My ultimate dream would be bands like yourself supporting the big internationals coming. Like when Sabbath came out the last time, the fact that Witch Skull weren't picked as a support band, it blew my mind. Like the number one doom metal band in the world at the time was Witch Skull. I remember it was on every chart was number one. They are, they're brilliant live. I watch them every time. I've seen them live.
Joel and Tony are two of my
Mate,
favorite people.
Joel and I talking about football when we're in trouble, but like just geezers and very tight and solid for a free, for what they do, it's immense.
Mate, I reckon they sound better than High on Fire. I reckon they sound
Yes.
like a bunch of those bands. Marcus is an amazing voice, man. Like,
He is
I've been
crazy.
Yeah, like to describe that to people is super hard.
Yeah.
Anyway, those boys, big ups to those boys. They're fucking rad.
I saw them at a festival at the Rose Cottage, and it was like -8 out. It was freezing. They had fire pits going, and Tony's bass kept going out of tune.
I was there.
What a strange night.
Yeah,
Oh dear! Well, the fireworks going off on the roofs.
And Gary trying to do quadraphonic with the sound. Anyway, so it was pretty cool. I hadn't been to a quadraphonic show.
I loved it, and I wish they'd do it again. I don't. All my friends that came were like, "Oh, it's too cold." Give a shit, man. There's fire pits. Just get a few drinks in here. You'll be fine. I've been out in
the snow and watched people play.
Exactly.
In the middle of Europe, in the middle of a forest, fucking snow's there.
Oh, can you imagine seeing someone like Immortal in the forest like that? Like that would be crazy, wouldn't it?
I went to a festival in Europe that was in the forest in the snow.
Wow.
I forget what it was called. I'll have to look that up. I'll send it to you.
Yeah. How the hell they kept everything in tune? Like what the hell?
I don't know. But it had who was on the show? It's like Satyricon and Immortal and I don't know, it was like Black Forest of something in England. It was fucking rad.
Did you get the Satyricon gig at the basement? Were you there for that one?
Yeah, I was doing photos.
Yeah, because I got tickets originally when it was meant to be at the Transit Bar. I thought, what's a weird place for Satyricon? Like the sort of name of and then you went.
That was when the new Transit Bar just opened.
Yeah.
Have you been to the new Transit Bar?
No, not yet.
So like, it's okay. Not as big But because they were opening, they were starting to like throw out big offers to bigger bands to try and get more people to come through there. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
yeah, good on them for doing business. But you know,
It was a brilliant gig, man. One of my favorite gigs of all time. Genuinely, like it was. What a year we had that. And then we had At the Gates, and it was just a crazy year. And
Flesh God.
oh my god! And then Venom Inc. the year before, I was like, yeah, right,
Yeah.
thanks very much. Prick me, I'm
I got
done.
to open for the At the Gates one, as we talked about last time,
Yeah.
and the Flesh God one.
Yes,
Just
I
before
know.
that.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was pretty cool. With Unholy Vendetta.
Love
But
that
man,
band.
we've had some crazy good bands come through Canberra, man.
Mate,
Like
I was there when Dragon Force turned up. It was like, what? I mean, it was they're not my thing as a rule, but my best friends loves
dude.
them, and that went off. I was holding a sea of people back for my wife. We're about to go overseas the
Yeah.
next day, so I'm like, because she loves Herman Lee, and I'm like, come on, stop. Yeah, it's just it was rammed.
Yeah.
I have never seen the basement that full in my life.
Yeah. And then they all stayed back and poured beers for people.
I know, it was
Half
crazy.
naked.
Yeah, I was playing pinball with what's his name, the Kiwi.
Yep.
I was playing pinball with him. I'm like, what? It was just nuts. It was just nuts.
Yeah, it's very cool, man. Even like Phil Anselmo and the Illegals, like what was
Yeah,
that?
I know.
Like
Yeah,
Cavalier Conspiracy.
I missed it. You know, I couldn't get out of work,
Brutal.
and all these T-shirts were going around town. I'm like,
I missed it.
and you know what? I'm thinking that's not going to happen again. Like, you know, like
Yeah.
I had a chance of seeing them when they were meant to support Judas Priest during the Nostradamus tour, and then they couldn't get their visas.
Yeah, shit.
And so I saw Phil and Silmo's Down. They were the support band.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's still brilliant, but I was like, I wanted to see Cavalera.
Yeah, man. I remember my first what was a big day out. I was supposed to go and see Sepultura, and Max had just left, and got to see Fear Factory. So that for 12-year-old Jay, that was fucking amazing.
Brilliant. I saw Fear Factory at the now not there anymore Astoria in London by complete fluke. It was my friend's birthday. I hadn't really heard of them.
Yeah,
I was like 19 maybe. I can't remember now. And he said, come as this band. And I was like, okay. And we went into the Astoria, which is a beautiful old building. Seen many bands there. And he blew me away. I was like, what? Who? What? I remember coming out and going to the Virgin Megastore and buying the albums. It was like before the internet, right? So you had to go and buy the physical albums. And I was thinking, wow, why I hadn't heard of these people before.
Yeah,
I'm sure they were in Kerrang or Metal Hammer or something, but they've been over in the periphery.
Well, I grew up on the farm, in South Coast, right? So not Canberra, but Bateman's Bay or Mogo, right?
Yeah.
And we were, doesn't seem like much, but like 15 k's out of town on a farm with no public transport, right?
Yep.
So no internet, no TV.
Yeah.
Like you had to walk 15 k's to go to see shit, right?
That's dedication, man. That's the kind of thing we would do then. I don't see them doing it now, man. They just would.
Oh man, I've got photos of me going to jam. Me with the wheelbarrow with the fucking amp and the guitar in it, fucking hand lumping it 7 k's down the road.
Oh man, I went and saw the day before I met my now wife. I went to see the Buzzcocks at the Astoria, and I was absolutely whammed. I mean, whammed. I don't remember. I remember the bass player jumping out and hitting someone in the audience with his white Explorer bass, right? But I'd say, okay. And then we come out of the gig, and I thought, oh God. And there was this girl, a friend of mine I was with. I said, oh, I'll see you home. Be chivalrous. Go back to a place, and then no trains, no buses. I had no money. I had to walk like 12 miles to get home, And
shit.
like by the time I got home, I was completely sober. Mate,
Perfect.
but those sort of and stealing bits of bread out of a French restaurant's bin, like because I was starving and it was 2 a.m. It's rock and roll, right?
That is rock and roll.
I went up to this policeman and I went, "Hey, how do I get there?" And he went, "Is there any way you can get me home?" He went, "No, mate, you walk that direction."
Yeah. Oh, man.
Brilliant. Well,
Were you here?
Yep.
Oh,
Carry
sorry.
on. Yep, carry on.
Were you here for Rock Ape Days?
I think I was. When was that?
Did you go to the Rock Ape? So like 2002?
Yes, I would have been. Yes, indeed.
And 2006?
Yes.
Like that had some hectic times at the Rock Ape, bro, before, like back in the day, because that was loose.
Oh, mate, I remember the green room. Do you remember? It used to go wild, and that was the Gypsy Bar. Do you remember the Gypsy Bar?
I'm a little too young for the Gypsy Bar. It had closed. Like I moved to Canberra when I was 16.
Yeah,
and it had just closed.
Oh man, it was wild.
As I moved to Canberra,
we went and saw the Dropkick Murphys there.
Yeah.
And I was with my wife, and we had free tickets, backstage stuff. She wouldn't go backstage. She's like, no, this is scary shit, because it was for Canberra, which then was a quiet, smoky little town. It went. I was expecting to be, no, I won't go off. Oof,
big time, yeah,
crazy. But my wife saw Run DMC here, not Run DMC, sorry, Beastie Boys.
Yes,
at the ANU.
Yeah,
like, you can't. You know,
my wife regales me with times of Corn on the Life is Peachy tour and things like that.
Yes,
and I'm like, oh, I would have loved to see that.
Yeah, Nirvana was sold out at the ANU. If you remember,
yeah,
like everyone says they were there. Like, oh, I was there. Like, were you? Because that means there was 20,000 of you there.
They all talk about kicking the windows in, and you're like, were you really there?
Were you really there? Oh, I was climbing through the air duct. Were you really there?
Yeah. Yeah, not me. No, I wasn't. I was too young.
You weren't there. If you can remember, you weren't there. That's the.
Yeah.
But then on the same side with Canberra, that frustrates me, is that we lose out on big bands because the audience doesn't come to the gig. Like, you know, when Def Leppard came twice, I loved it both times. Brilliant. You know, I'm a big Leopard fan. I'm all up to Hysteria. Hysteria I'm not a big, huge fan of, but pre-Hysteria I love. And it was really good. And then I remember when the disappointment when Ace Frehley came to support Alice Cooper, and half the bloody thing was empty.
Yeah,
and I'm thinking,
but I don't think we have enough numbers here with music fans. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I think it's very light.
You see stadium bands coming through, and you would think people would go out, but man, I just think it's a very conservative town. The underground is ripe, but that's only the musos and their friends. Do you know what I mean?
I know what you're saying. It's the same with sport.
To me, Canberra's very cliquey, but then everyone else is like very, very closed.
Yes. I'd like to think, no, if they built the stadium, which they were talking about, the 15,000 seat stadium, if you built it, they would come. But I just don't know.
They were talking about that PA, right?
Yeah,
so that PA is the reason why we don't get so many shows, right?
Oh.
So basically, it's like a $2-3 million investment, right? But that means that, like, when people come through, they write down what PA they want, blah blah blah. And so if you can't provide that PA, they don't even look at your town. And you can't. They don't move it. They don't just like pick it up out of this stadium. It's because of the PA, man.
So see, that's a good insight to me, because it's always been a dark side of my brain not knowing that, because I always think surely we could host bigger acts.
It's the PA infrastructure and the sound guy stuff. Like a lot of my friends that are in the scene are like PA guys and sound guys and lighties, and they all do different parts of that, right? And so event management, And so, you talk to them for a while, and they're all like, "Yeah, we don't have that desk, man. If we had that desk and that we'd be able to do all those big line arrays, and then all the shows would just come through."
Yeah. Oh, I think we should get some fancy multimillionaire who fancies, who loves it in Canberra and goes, "Let's buy us one." That'd be nice, wouldn't it? Why can't we get the arts minister to get us one? I mean, come on, we spend enough money.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure there'd be some kind of grant that we can apply for.
Oh, I think we should. I think we should.
If we all apply for it at once, maybe we'll pull it together and make that happen.
That's it. And then you know what? Doesn't really matter, because we, as a town, as a community, we still have you, and it's a brilliant album. And I'm so looking forward to the another one coming out, because if it's as good as this, then sweet, because that's a big call. Thanks for coming on, man. I know it's chatting for over an hour, but thank you, man. I really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to the 25th, man. I cannot wait to come out and see you live. That's going to be awesome.
We'll have to next time some bands are coming through. We'll me and you interview them.
Yes.
And do some collabs or something, man.
Fantastic. I'd love to. Be brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Yeah.
Because I usually bring my vlog kit, and Marky brings his. So Canberra metalheads and metal roos we'll get a guestie on. We'll make it happen.
I think that's a bloody good idea. That's a really good idea. But thanks again for coming on. I know it's been your first day back at work since the holidays. You're probably knackered after touring. But I would sit back in a glow knowing I've made that piece of art. I think you should, because that's wonderful.
Thanks, man. Thanks so much.
That's right. And to all the people that are listening to this, I really do urge you to. It's on all streaming platforms. You can get it anywhere. It's not like you can't find it. Pop it into your search engine and have a listen. And what is it? What's the time? What's it run for? About 30 odd minutes. It's not a long album, is it?
No, it's a long.
Is it? God, it sounds way quick. See how quick
56 minutes.
It doesn't feel that way though. That's the thing.
Yeah, it doesn't.
No,
but there's like 6 9-minute tracks.
There you go, and it doesn't feel that way. And so that's it. That's even better endorsement for me, because I didn't go, oh God, when is this going to move on to the next one? It just carries on. Natural. So for 50 odd minutes of your lifetime, you'll thank both of us for that, listeners, because you're going to love it. So, and get some merch. The artwork is amazing. Go to Bandcamp. Go to Bandcamp. Give this guy some money. We need to get him to make more and more stuff.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, Jay, mate. And we'll see you on the 25th, mate. This goes out this Wednesday, so we'll see you then. All right.
Yeah, no worries, man. I'll catch you soon.
Catch you soon, mate. Bye for now, man.